Did you feel it? Magnitude 6.1 earthquake strikes off the northwest coast of Cuba with reports of shaking felt as far north as Orlando, Florida. Stay with Fox Weather for the latest. So we'll have a look at this segment, and I just so happen to be in this area.
All right, you guys still following us right now? We got that breaking news. We had an earthquake
That's
just
my neck of the woods, Tampa Bay.
The western side of Cuba, but it's been felt over 450 miles
Spoiler
away.
alert, I didn't feel it.
In central Florida, it was a magnitude 6.1. 6.1 is a
6.1.
strong one. The good news, I can tell you this, there are no
Yikes.
tsunami warnings, which is great news. But here's
Yeah.
what it looked like. It
No
was
tsunamis.
2 p.m.
Nope.
Eastern time, right on the nose when
Not
it
with
happened.
that magnitude.
Magnitude 6.1. So let's get right down to it. Let's go in the zone. Let's
It was
go
rock
back
and
to
roll, man.
Orlando,
No
the
pun
Fox
intended.
News station right there, and listen to their coverage.
As we continue to track this, getting an email from someone saying they felt it in the southernmost section of the villages. That's from Lauren Lewin sending us that. Gail Rivera in Kissimmee says she felt it, lives in the third floor of an apartment. Ceiling fan in the office trembled several minutes later.
Yeah, the villages is like a little bit northwest of Orlando, if I remember correctly. Kissimmee, Disney World area in Orlando.
Later, the living room entertainment center with the TV and windows shook, saying she never experienced anything like this before. So, Christopher, have you noticed any damage?
By the way, this is swamp related.
How strong
We'll get to it in a minute.
was that? And have you noticed any cracks or anything like that that have come from this?
Not that I've checked. Funny enough, I do have a Lego set that was on my entertainment system, kind of like on the edge. That did end up falling. Seeing kind of like the kitchen lamps shaking a little bit was a really weird, scary feeling because they weren't shaking extremely fast, but they were moving enough that you notice it. But as far as checking for cracks, I have not looked yet as far as damage goes.
I'd be very surprised.
Christopher, we appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live and sharing your experience with us. Kind of a scary thing there. We appreciate you
Absolutely.
Talk about out of the blue.
That,
Literally.
Christopher Marin joining us live from Horizon West. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like you heard him say, just not something you would necessarily expect, not something that many people have kind of dealt with here. So we are going to continue to track this. We're getting a lot of new information. We've got to step aside, though, for a quick break right now, but we'll be right back with more Florida Live here on.
All right, quick break. I believe that's the gist of it. They pretty much just go over the same thing again. I just wanted to play just that quick interview they had with that individual who's a little bit further north than where I'm at, but I'm roughly about a mile and a half from the coast in right near Indian Rocks Beach, that area, Madeira Beach. Like, that's my neck of the woods. I'm not on that beach area, but I'm in the St. Petersburg area generally, and I didn't feel anything, but I live in a one-story house, so I'm on the ground floor, so that's probably why I didn't feel anything. But there's reports all over the place that I saw online in my area, especially with people living in the second floor, third floor, and above. The high-rise buildings, downtown Tampa, there are a lot of reports of the earthquake from around there, which they said hit around 2 o'clock this afternoon Eastern. And from Cam Tran WESH, did you feel the shaking today? A rare, strong earthquake hit near Cuba, and lots of Floridians felt it.
Did you feel that shaking this afternoon? Well, if you did, you're not the only one, and if you didn't, here's what I'm talking about. A 6.1 magnitude earthquake hit about 60 miles off the coast of Cuba around 2 o'clock this afternoon. It was so strong that a lot of folks, even in Central Florida, reported feeling that shake. In fact, here is a look at a map from the USGS. Every single blue square.
I mean, yeah, see, like, this is where I'm at. I'm over here on the left side of the peninsula, and I didn't feel anything, and I'm just really surprised. 2 o'clock, I was home, I was aware, and I didn't feel a damn thing.
That you see is a report of someone indicating that they felt that shake from that earthquake. And you can see there are reports as far north as North Florida.
Yeah,
so a 6.1 makes it a moderate earthquake on the scale, but it makes it the strongest earthquake to hit near Florida in record history.
Record history.
So it's definitely a rare earthquake. A lot of folks felt it.
The 5.9, I'll get into that one here in a minute.
2 o'clock, you definitely weren't the only one.
Okay. Yeah, so that 5.9 earthquake, I think I actually have a graphic of that, so I'll hold off on that just for a moment. Live cam chaser, dude, I felt this earthquake in Hollywood, Florida. I was sitting on my couch and felt the whole couch move. Looked at my coffee table and it was swaying, then checked my water and it was moving. That was like a solid 60 plus minutes of shaking. I mean, come on. It was like 15 to 20 seconds. Maybe he meant to say 60 seconds of shaking. That might be a little bit more believable, but he's got a video of his water cooler jostling around a little bit. So it seems legit to me that there is some shaking happening. I guess technically maybe he could have had his foot down there at the bottom, like very slightly tapping at it. You know, I don't know. It's kind of hard to believe anything on the internet anymore. That came from, and he was replying to USGS earthquakes. And this is from AZ Intel. Just in, strong earthquake hits the Cuba region, global Q quake. And there's the image graphic. That's the epicenter just off the western coast of Cuba. Magnitude, they said magnitude 6.4. That must have not been confirmed just yet, even though the timestamp they have is 18:05, which is 6:05 p.m., I'm assuming Eastern time. But everybody else is saying 6.1, so I'm just going to go with 6.1. And NWS Miami with the gray badge. That's why it's swamp related. Anything with the gray badge is in reference to government. So that's in this show's neck of the woods. And as of reporting at 2:15 p.m. today, we've received several recent reports of shaking across southwestern Florida within the past 30 minutes. An earthquake has just occurred off just west of Cuba in the southern Gulf. USGS Quakes has since revised the magnitude down to a 6.1 at a depth of 10 kilometers. So that was pretty deep. And USGS Community Internet Intensity Map. And there's the dead center epicenter. So it was quite close to Cuba. And I have a further out view here of the same image, just a more broad view, showing more coverage. And from Matt DeVitt, rare Gulf earthquake. The magnitude 6.1 today near Cuba is officially the second strongest on record in the Gulf. I mean, the other news individual, that lady said that it was the strongest. I thought it was the strongest. Okay, so I guess technically the one 6.4 in 1959, I mean, that is in the Gulf of America. So, you know, I guess that would break, that would be the record breaker, the one in 1959. So let's see. Considering the shaking in Florida today, the largest known quake ever in the state was a 4.4 in 1879, southeast of Gainesville, like to actually hit inside the state. Probably the only one. I mean, not only the largest, but I don't know. Maybe there's like those little micro, like 2.0 and whatnot that happen all the time. Like what? There's like millions of those a year, I think. In WS tsunami alerts. Oh yeah. By the way, the 5.9. I forgot to get to that. 2006. I did feel that one. That one happened on a Sunday. I was off work because I was working first shift Monday through Friday at the time, and it was probably like around, I'd say maybe sometime around noon. It was like late morning, maybe early afternoon, somewhere around there. I lived in a second-story apartment at the time. I was on the computer, and it felt like large dump trucks that were dead silent driving right up next to our building. It was like full-on rattling, like not a bit more than like a cell phone vibrating on the table. It was more pronounced than that. But it definitely just threw me off guard. Like, what the hell is that? And as far as I know, that's the only time I ever experienced any form of an earthquake. But yeah, at the time, that was, I think that was the only, well, maybe not the only one that they reported. There's some historical significance to that. I think at the time, before this one hit today, that was the strongest earthquake to hit the Tampa Bay area or to affect the Tampa Bay area in recorded history, which definitely shows on this map. So very interesting when that happened. And NWS tsunami alerts from the National Tsunami Warning Center. No tsunami, no danger from a recent earthquake. Duty scientists analyzed the event at 1400 Eastern Daylight Time on June the 8th. Sounds like 1400 precisely, right on the button. Magnitude 6.4, which has been downgraded to a 6.1. Tsunami information statement for this event is posted at tsunami.gov. I guess I'll link it. I don't see any reason to even look at it, so I'm not going to, but I'll have it linked. From FEMA, good reminder for everyone, earthquakes can happen anywhere. Be prepared to drop, cover, and hold on. If you feel shaking, find more safety and preparedness tips from ReadyGov and at ready.gov/earthquakes. And they also had the NWS tsunami alerts that we just read. So there you go, man. Earthquakes. So that's that. And we'll just go ahead and move on to other matters, starting with Kyle Cheney. A federal judge has ruled Trump's $100,000 H-1B visa fee is an unauthorized tax on businesses and must be vacated, even though it's not a tax. I think it's a fee, but Anyway, we'll take a look at what he shared here. The $100,000 payment requirement for all H-1B petitions does not aim to establish that hiring H-1B workers is illegal. The payment is not a penalty, just as the IRS fee in Sebelius was not, because it is not punishment for an unlawful act or omission. Hiring workers pursuant to the H-1B program is plainly lawful. Of course, rendering the hiring of H-1B workers unlawful would eliminate the program established by Congress through the statute, which would raise a different separation of powers concern. And then it says, see Clinton versus the city of New York. There's no provision in the Constitution that authorizes the president to enact or amend or to repeal statutes, which I don't think he was doing any of that. Hawaii, does not allow the president to expressly override particular provisions of the INA, nor is this case analogous to Drexel. There, the exaction was clearly imposed to outlaw the hiring of child laborers and to punish employers who deviated from this standard. 259 U.S. 3738. The Supreme Court's reasoning in this pair of precedents supports a finding that the $100,000 payment requirement amounts to a tax, not a penalty. It's not a tax. I mean, I don't believe it's in any way a tax. Conclusion and orders. For the foregoing reasons, the court allows plaintiff's motion for summary judgment, document number, blah, 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 denies defendant's cross motion for summary judgment. At the party's request, the court dismisses without prejudice the claims against the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, Department of Labor, and Secretary of Labor. Defendant's motion to dismiss is otherwise denied. The policy implementing the proclamation is declared unlawful and is vacated in its entirety. The clerk shall enter judgment in favor of plaintiffs and against defendants, with each side bearing its own fees and costs. So just like that, they're striking down Trump's $100,000 H-1B visas. I'm sure there was maybe not a lot of weight behind the judge specifically, although I'm sure there totally was. He was this judge was an Obama-appointed judge, probably a far-left judge. I'm sure there's probably plenty of other things that he has stricken down that Trump has signed off by executive order. But I can only imagine that there's probably a lot of people in the corporate sector in corporate America that's probably very happy that this happened, because they, as far as I understand, they import a bunch of H-1B visa holders for essentially low-wage workers. At least that's my understanding of it, and that's exactly the reason why Trump wanted to implement a $100,000 fee. So that way our companies hire us and not them. Anyway, this is the court document in its entirety. It's like 42 pages. Yeah, it's 42 pages long, so I don't want to skip all the way past it, but I'm obviously not going to read this here, but again, it'll be in the description. And moving to Upstate Federalist, just simply said, I've been reliably informed that a fee is not a tax. So that was just that simple. I just came across that. Kyle Cheney, we just went through that too. Eric Doherty, breaking: an Obama leftist judge has just struck down President Trump's landmark $100,000 H-1B visa fee. Judge Leo Sorokin just declared himself president. Okay, obviously Eric Doherty's opinion, and said Trump isn't allowed to do this. Impeach the judge and overturn. This judge is foreigner first and needs to be slapped down ASAP. Will it go to the Supreme Court? Probably. I don't know if the Supreme Court will take it up or not, but I believe this video is Trump explaining the H-1B visa program that he signed on.
No more will these big tech
or
companies
Howard
or other
Lutnick
big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000, then they have to pay the employee. So it's just not economic. If you're going to train somebody, you're going to train one of the recent graduates from one of the great universities across our land.
Well, amen.
Train Americans.
That makes sense.
Stop bringing in people to take our jobs. That's the policy here. $100,000 a year.
I bet a lot of them don't leave
visas,
either.
And all of the big companies are on board. We've spoken to them about the gold card.
They love it. They love it. They really love it. They need it. Go ahead, Sean.
Mr. President, it seems like there's two categories.
Okay, well, that's that. Of course, Trump's gold card. It was all in the same program, as far as my understanding goes. Which, by the way, I got a new coffee mug. Got it this weekend from the mid-1950s. It's the, it is, I'm trying to remember what it was. Anchor Hawking, that's what it was. I don't know why. I drew a blank at the time, or just now. So, the St. Denis version. I bought it for $10. I went on Facebook Marketplace, and somebody just down the street was selling that. And just by coincidence, I really like jadeite. Jadeite's a really cool color. It's absolutely gorgeous. Highly collectible, 1950s, milk glass. Piece from Anchor Hawking. Probably the best $10 I ever spent. All right, so anyway, let's get back to it. RNC Research, Democrat House Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Timu Obama. House Democrats will be a hard no on the budget reconciliation bill this week. Democrats are once again holding funding for law enforcement officers and protecting criminals, as always. Here he is all dolled up because the Knicks are in the finals.
To make life more affordable for the American people.
He looks like a moron.
Not give ICE another $70 billion blank check so they can unleash brutality on American citizens.
Brutality.
And violently target law-abiding immigrant communities. House Democrats.
Law-abiding, huh? Illegal immigrants are totally law-abiding. They didn't break any laws again in the country.
On the reckless Republican budget reconciliation bill this week.
Talk about a dangerous propagandist trying to look like a cheap pimp. I don't know why the hell he's got the pink. What is that, like some signal to the whole pride thing because it's the month of June? And he's like, oh, I'm totally feminine with my pink Knicks hat. POTUS is a certified ball knower. Sombrero man ain't it. See what this is all about.
But it also is not clear to me that Donald Trump is a big Knicks fan.
Oh, it's a sombrero.
Glad your teammates didn't come off the bench this time.
Not a big Knicks fan.
Thanks a lot. Let's go back to
I think we beg to differ.
Craig, a lot of defense too because the
Patrick Ewing, man. This is back in the day.
In the last 2 minutes and 41 seconds after they had led 43. It's your good friend Donald Trump.
Well.
What does it say? Walk on. That's very nice.
President Trump, well, Mr. Trump at the time, at the Knicks game. I'm sure he went to a lot of Knicks games back then. So, of course, Timo Obama, you ain't gonna know that because he's not too intelligent upstairs. Senator Dick Durbin, the cruelty is the point. The Trump administration is wrongly detaining people with no criminal records. Then, in detention, they are being treated in ways no human being should. And they're dying. Oh my God, they're dying. Well, how many have died so far? A 43-year-old has died in ICE custody, marking the 19th. 19! That's doesn't sound like that big of a number. The 19th death in immigration detention this year, and at a pace on track to exceed last year's deaths in detention. And, just an offhand comment. I was like, notice how they don't tell you the cause of death. It's all about the misdirection because chances are it probably died of, some chronic related ailment. Maybe he had diabetes, maybe a heart attack. Who knows? I mean, 43, yeah, a bit on the young side. So I highly doubt that he was tortured or beaten to death or anything ridiculous like that. And not to mention the 19th death, there's been thousands of Americans that die incarcerated every year. I mean, just 19, that's actually an incredibly low number for the entirety of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement detention system. For only 19 to have died in 6 months, that's actually pretty incredible. I mean, it'd be great if it was 0, but still, 19 is an awfully low number when you make a comparison to Americans that are incarcerated. It's literally in the thousands. I think the last official number that came out was in 2018, and it was something like 4,000, 5,000. And anyway, Mayor Zoran Kwame Mamdani, soccer would not exist without immigrants. Immigrants play and coach the game. They work in the stadiums. They fill the stands and make celebrations like the World Cup possible. 6 of the players on the U.S. men's national team are immigrants. Well, look, dude, we have no problem with immigrants. But of course, it's all about the misdirection and the whole lot low IQ propaganda. We will not allow ICE or anyone else to sow fear into our communities, especially at this moment. As the world comes to our city, we will stand proudly with our immigrant neighbors and reject these attacks for what they are, an attempt to divide us. Now, dude, the Democrats do an incredible job at dividing us in and of itself. But obviously, we don't have any issue with legal immigrants. It's the illegal immigrants. And what is he trying to suggest that 6 of the players on the men's national team are illegal immigrants? Or are they legal immigrants? Because if they're legal immigrants, then, by all means, I hope they win. I hope they do incredible. If they're illegal immigrants, they need to be kicked off the team immediately and deported. That's just the way it should be. They broke the law. They should be, if they are illegal immigrants, hell, even with them being legal immigrants, look, I really appreciate them being on Team USA. That's wonderful. Although I'm sure their countries would absolutely love to have that skill set to remain in their countries, especially if they're illegal immigrants. Go back and play for your own country. I'm sure they would like to have a chance at winning the World Cup. But I don't know, it's just me. From Bloomberg, the Trump administration has drawn up a plan to surge U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement personnel into New York City, a move that threatens to escalate tensions with New York Governor Kathy Hochul over the president's migrant crackdown. Yup, it's happening one way or another. I think I have a video of Tom Homan explaining that in a little bit more detail, but I figure we check this out. Or actually, no, we won't check it out because it's freaking paywalled. So there you go. Yeah, so maybe I do have that video. Let me just keep scrolling. I'll see if we got it. I think I do, though. Andy, no. Soccer is older than mass migration, and it exists in a large scale in most countries without any history of mass migration. Fair point. Dr. Malouf, New Yorkers voted for a radical socialist communist Muslim mayor from Africa who only obtained citizenship just 7 years ago. Now they are complaining that the city is turning into an Islamic hell. Speak of the devil, Tom Homan. Oh, he's pissed. He's pissing his pants over Tom Homan. There it is. I thought I had that. From Andrew Colvett. Breaking borders are Tom Homan has just confirmed he is going to surge agents into New York City now that Hochul and Mamdani have paired up against ICE. Quote, I'm going to keep my promise to Governor Hochul. You're going to see more ICE agents than you've ever seen in New York City. So let's hear him say the rest.
So New York is saying abolish ICE and zero cooperation. The governor and mayor teaming up to make sure that with the progress you were making with Eric Adams is going to just disappear. So what's going to be your approach to New York? You're going to stay away now?
No, I'm keeping my promise to Governor Hochul. I met with Governor Hochul a couple months ago. I explained to her how we dealt with Minnesota, right? If we can work with the sheriffs and arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of the jail, that means less teams into the neighborhoods, which causes a lot of panic, a lot of problems, right? I said, but if you sign the legislation that I think you're getting about ready to sign, that means I'm going to send more agents to New York, because now rather than one guy arresting one bad guy in the jail, now we got to send a whole team into the neighborhood to find this person that don't want to be found.
Yeah, you see how New Yorkers, they're the ones that are forcing the federal government's hand. They're the ones that are forcing the ICE agents to have to go into the city by the droves, by the maybe by the thousands. I would assume they would have to have a large number of ICE agents descending on the city to conduct these operations because, like you said, because they're going after the criminal ones first, as far as my understanding goes, and they're primarily going for the ones that have got records, recent arrests, or those that they have, I don't know, somehow gotten, documentation or any kind of vetting back on the border during the Biden administration. They're trying to find all of them too, those that have any criminal backgrounds that they know about. So if they just arrest them and if they have them in jail, then just like you said, one officer can go and pick them up and then put them into custody, and then that'll be perfectly fine. But instead, they want to let them all out of jail before ICE has a chance to pick them up. So then they have to put together a whole team and then go after them out in public, putting everybody at risk.
Because officer safety reasons, now we got to arrest this guy in his turf. He has access to no weapons. I told her it's safer for the community. Sure. It's safer for the officers. It's safer for the aliens to have these cooperations.
It's safer for the immigrant too. Yep.
She signed the legislation anyways. So I made her a promise. You're going to see more ICE agents you ever seen in New York City, and it's coming. I just reviewed an operational plan. I'm not going to tell you exactly when it's going to happen.
I would certainly hope not.
I'm keeping my promise. We're going to send more ICE agents to New York because you took away the efficiencies of safe arrests in county jails.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Tom, it looks like Congress is going to finally pass that $70 billion immigrant.
All right, so that's all they have to do is just quietly allow ICE to go pick them up at jails. She doesn't have to make a big spectacle out of it. Just allow them to go pick them up at jail. Homeland Security, while Americans enjoyed their weekends, ICE law enforcement were arresting murderers and pedos and child abusers and drug traffickers under President Trump and Secretary Mullen with the DHS. We will always put the safety of American citizens first. And they tagged in Libs of TikTok's post first on LOTT, Libs of TikTok, of course. DHS has just shared with me the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens arrested over the weekend, just this past weekend, including pedos, murderers, and child abusers. This is who Democrats want to protect and give taxpayer-funded benefits to. It's shocking. While Americans enjoyed their weekends, ICE law enforcement were arresting murderers, pedos, child abusers, and drug traffickers. Instead of thanking ICE law enforcement for removing these monsters, sanctuary politicians continue to side with criminal illegal aliens over American citizens. Under President Trump and Secretary Mullen, we will always put the safety of American citizens first, said Acting Assistant Secretary Lauren Biz. The arrests include Juan Flores Chavez, a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador convicted for murder in Harris County, Texas. Steve Charles, a criminal illegal from Haiti, convicted for indecent assault on a child under the age of 13 in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Victor Alfonso Moreno Jimenez, a criminal illegal alien from Mexico, convicted for abuse against a child, fondling and exploitation of a minor, and then also performance of in Baltimore City, Maryland. Rafael Torres, a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador, convicted for course of misconduct against a child in Riverhead, New York. Joshua Curiel Soto, a criminal illegal from Mexico convicted for felony S with a minor, multiple convictions for driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, and felon in possession of a firearm in San Bernardino, California. Mauricio Orlando Samoya Chavez, a criminal illegal alien from Guatemala convicted for burglary and S motivation-related assault in Pierce County, Washington. I mean, look, I think we get the idea, right? It just goes on and on and on. I mean, just these worst of the worst criminals that our federal government has apprehended, no thanks to the Democrats who are fighting tooth and nail to keep them on the streets. Although I don't really know why, because, look, these criminals, that I'm sure they still represent a relatively small percentage of the overall illegal immigrant population. Why not just allow them to at least get the criminals out, and then you can do all your riots and your obstructing and your protests and all that after we get all of the criminals out. I just think that would be a good start. But no, they want to keep them there too, because every single individual counts toward the census in 2030, because that's what they really want. They want more congressional seats because they count illegal immigrants. And knowing Democrats, they probably even count just people here that are visiting from another country, just touring. You know, if they just happen to be here for a month or 2 months and they're just visiting the country, I wouldn't doubt it if they're in a blue state. Somehow they find their way onto the census somehow. Just because every single person counts as long as they're here. Secretary Markwayne Mullin, I'm not surprised you would say something like this, Governor Sherrill of New Jersey. So let's check this out first. Governor Mickey Sherrill, after being denied access for weeks, I was finally allowed into Delaney Hall, but what I received was a closely controlled and limited tour of the facility. This is unacceptable. Well, so she wants to go in there and mingle with every single illegal immigrant. Doors wide open. She wants to just walk right into all these rooms filled with all these criminal illegals, these dangerous individuals convicted of S assault and murder and all this other stuff. I was not allowed to meet or speak directly with the detainees, which continues to raise serious questions about the real conditions of the facility and treatment of those held there. I will continue to push to speak with the detainees directly. They deserve to be heard, and the public deserves answers. Well, dude, of course they're going to say it's bad conditions, or they might just ask, well, if I say the right thing, will you push to shut this thing down? Well, you bet your ass. Well, then of course they're going to tell her that it's the worst place on earth. It's the worst place imaginable. It's not a 5-star resort anyway. It's the equivalent of jail. So, and as the feds have been saying that the conditions in ICE facilities are far better than conditions in, let's say, New Jersey jails and New Jersey prisons, probably in any other state, really. So Secretary Markwayne Mullin replied by saying, on June 8th, I personally granted you access to the facility as an act of good faith, despite you having exactly zero federal oversight authority. Of course, you're still trying to turn Delaney Hall into a political football for the radical left. You were told before you went in, you would not have the ability to speak to detainees. This is a federal facility, Governor. You are not federally elected. I suggest you and your health inspectors spend more time at your New Jersey state detention facilities. Delaney Hall has 2 times more medical personnel per detainee than New Jersey State Prison, and at least twice as much square footage. Detainees are also twice more likely to die in New Jersey state custody. Yeah, see, there you go. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm sure it's probably a lot more than twice as likely. It's probably like 4 or 5 times more likely. Just my opinion. Another one, Secretary Markwayne Mullin. It has been more than 100 days since congressional Democrats defunded ICE and Border Patrol in a radical attempt to protect violent criminal illegal aliens and undermine President Trump's highly successful border security agenda. There is no time for further delay. The Honorable Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, and he's writing to Mr. Speaker, of course, with Homeland Security's letterhead. I write today to express the urgent need to provide base funding to the brave men and women of Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Patrol who put their lives on the line every single day to help the homeland safe, or to keep the homeland safe, rather. ICE and Customs and Border Protection are working to protect the American people during the 2026 World Cup, which begins next week, prevent Ebola from reaching our shores, and fight the spread of New World screwworm in the U.S., which I'll be getting to later on, among other critical law enforcement functions. The current funding situation, however, continues to undermine ICE and CBP's ability to fully carry out their respective missions. It is imperative that Congress immediately passes the Secure America Act to fully fund these critical components. Following Senate passage last week, the House is the final hurdle in ensuring our ICE and CBP agents have the resources they need to execute their mission. And it goes on from there. So I'll repost this. There's a direct link below to my profile, which will take you directly to this post, or you can go to Secretary Markwayne Mullin's profile at SEC Mullin DHS. So now that it's in the House, I don't see why there's a major holdup because I believe they've already passed the funding in different forms a number of times already in the House. It's usually the Senate that ends up being the biggest roadblock with DHS and ICE funding. So there might be a couple of Republicans who might be trying to add a couple of things to it, maybe a couple of provisions. I'm sure there's probably some Democrats that are trying to take away from it, although the Republicans outnumber the Democrats and they just need a simple majority in order to pass it in the House. So I'm sure it's being held up for some good reason. Steve Scalise, how crazy have Democrats become? Last week, the House voted on a bill to crack down on fraud in child care programs after billions of taxpayer dollars were lost to phony operations like Minnesota's infamous Quality Learning Center. 98% of Democrats voted against it because they don't want to crack down on fraud in child care, because they just want to waste all of our money. They want to hyperinflate our economy. They want to railroad our entire civilization into oblivion. So that way they could stand on the ashes and seize power for the Democrat Party, because they're party first, not country first. Final vote results for roll call: 198 Republicans in Roman, Democrats in italic, independents are underlined. HR 7726, yeas and nays. This is back on June the 3rd at 5:08 p.m. So the Democrats, 207 voted no, and only 4 voted yes. Republicans, 212 voted yes. I'm assuming 0 voted no. Not votes. There were 5 that didn't vote for some reason, though. And 1 independent voting yes. All right. Rolling on. House Rules Committee. Democrats they don't want to talk about fraud. They don't ever want to talk about fraud. Probably because most of the fraud's occurring in blue states. But that's not to say that there isn't any happening in red states. I'm sure there's a lot of fraud happening in all 50 states.
Are we talking about fraud? What are we talking about? I don't think you understand what we're talking about here. We're talking about fraud.
I'm talking about oversight.
Oversight of fraud. We're talking about taxpayer dollars. We're talking about fraud. This bill has to do with fraud. This is something that's a foreign concept to Democrats. You just want to keep spending more money. You don't care about the poor, hardworking Americans who spend 40% of their paycheck on taxes, and they're sick and tired of their money being wasted by fraudsters. That's what this bill's about.
Yep.
And you talk about inspectors
bloated spending
general, my God. Where have the inspectors general been on all this fraud? They got fired. This fraud's been happening for years. I would fire them all and hire new ones.
Oh, hell yeah. Absolutely you should. Get some young blood in there. A lot of recent graduates, a lot of people graduating out of college. They don't know what the hell to do with their degree. I'm sure there's a lot of accountants, a lot of even like forensic accountants. There's probably a lot of brilliant minds that are graduating. And put them into those roles, especially those who are, I don't know, patriotic. That would probably be a good start. Dude's thirsty, man. He's got a lot of cups. He's got a big-ass pitcher of water. He's ready to rock and roll. Oversight Committee breaking. We just released a bombshell report exposing how Governor Tim Walz and AG Keith Ellison fueled Minnesota's fraud explosion. Again, this is from the GOP Oversight Committee. $9 billion in Medicaid has been lost. $300 million in federal child nutrition funds were placed at serious risk. And you could read the report and key takeaways, but that's just the image. I'm assuming it's in the follow-up post below. Let's have a look. Yep, there it is. Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. And this is going to be on oversight.house.gov. So I make it a little larger. Oversight Committee releases a bombshell report exposing rampant fraud plaguing Minnesota's taxpayer-funded social programs. The House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform released a staff report today titled The Cost of Doing Nothing, How Tim Walz and Keith Ellison Fueled Minnesota's Fraud Explosion. The report exposes how senior Minnesota state officials, including Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison, were aware of widespread taxpayer fraud in federally funded social programs for years, possessed the authority to stop payments and ban fraudulent providers from participating in these programs, but repeatedly failed to act. As a result, billions of taxpayer dollars, American taxpayer dollars, were potentially paid to fraudulent actors. The report includes testimony and documents obtained by the committee showing that Minnesota state leaders consistently failed to address known fraud concerns and retaliated against state employees who sought to protect taxpayer funds, allowing criminal schemes to flourish and diverting critical resources from vulnerable Americans. Well, that tends to happen in sanctuary states where the criminal element just floods into those states and takes advantage of anything they possibly can. Plus, I'm not sure if it was a committee or if they were individual Republicans. I covered this last week, but they are inviting whistleblowers in Minnesota to speak on the record. And I certainly hope that they will. I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, they were very adamant that they were trying to be heard. They were reporting all this fraud years ago. A number of them were. So definitely be looking forward to that. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, this is a quote, Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison are responsible for one of the most stunning oversight failures this committee has ever examined. Today's report is a culmination of months of investigative work and reveals hard evidence showing how the Walz administration failed to stop widespread fraud, allowing criminals to enrich themselves at the expense of American taxpayers. Billions of dollars were stolen because Minnesota state leaders turned a blind eye to rampant fraud and retaliated against state employees who dared to raise concerns. It is now clear the Walz administration chose to protect the system rather than protect the taxpayer. Americans are fed up with fraud and expect action from the government entrusted with their hard-earned money. The House Oversight Committee has now passed over a dozen bills aimed at protecting taxpayer funds and strengthening oversight of federal programs ripe for fraud. This committee will continue to work alongside President Trump's anti-fraud task force to have the backs of hardworking Americans, said House Committee on Oversight and Government Chairman James Comer from Kentucky. And let's see how many bullet points there are. Okay, so I'll go through the bullet points at least. Below are some key findings from the report. Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison were aware of credible and systemic fraud in Minnesota's social services program as early as 2019, but they failed to take action to protect taxpayer funds. Minnesota state agencies had clear authority to suspend or stop payments to providers suspected of fraud without requiring independent direction from courts, law enforcement agencies, or the federal government, but failed to act. Minnesota officials continued directing taxpayer dollars to Feeding Our Future and other high-risk entities despite identifying serious program deficiencies, enabling hundreds of millions of dollars in federal funds to flow to fraudsters. Plus, it was Ilhan Omar who wrote the legislation that made Feeding Our Future possible. And testimony and documents show that concerns about litigation and accusations of discrimination, not legal barriers or directives from law enforcement, were cited as reasons for continuing payments to suspected fraudsters. The Walz administration retaliated against state employees who raised concerns about fraud, while senior state officials prioritized managing political and media fallout over addressing known fraud vulnerabilities. And failures to prevent fraud resulted in an estimated $300 million in federal child nutrition funds being lost, and potentially up to $9 billion in Medicaid-related funds to be lost or placed at serious risk. Based on the committee's findings, Chairman Comer also sent a letter to Vice President J.D. Vance urging the White House Fraud Task Force to eliminate fraud, to conduct a thorough review of Minnesota's social services programs, which I'm sure they're very well on that trail. And you could read the letter to Vice President Vance there and the whole report. And I'm assuming these are committee members. Okay. So the committee is releasing transcribed interview transcripts conducted as part of its investigation into fraud, Minnesota's social services programs. And they got a list of individuals. And that'll be below if you want to check it out. The full report and also the letter to Vice President Vance. And Oversight Committee. Let's see. Oh, no. Let's go back. Oh, wait. Here. Hold on. Let me see what that was. It said that was posted just 7 minutes ago. So this is brand new. Where was that? Yeah, just below. Oversight Committee, 7 minutes ago. Oversight Committee. Okay, so 2 hours ago. Tim Walz and Keith Ellison knew about the widespread fraud in Minnesota for years and did nothing about it. We interviewed state employees. We found the truth. Billions lost to fraud. So it's a news segment. I mean, I guess I'll repost it, but it's 8 minutes. So I didn't plan on playing that, obviously, because they just posted that. So we'll just move on to the next thing.
If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Check out The Swamp, Monday through Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern, with segments dropping on the daily. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day.